Hello, welcome to Vegas Nation. This is our off-season update of the Raiders, soon to be the Las Vegas Raiders in a little while. I have three guys that know a little bit about NFL football and the Raiders. We have Ed Graney, the sports columnist here at the Review Journal, sports reporter Gilberto Manzano, and I'm saving the best for last, beat writer for the Raiders, Michael Gehlken.
We're used to it.
Of course, you have to.
We're used to it.
You have to be used to that.
He's in town. He's a star.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you bring this kid in town and forget about it. They roll out the red carpet around him.
Well, since the red carpet is rolled out to him and he is the man, let's go ahead and start with Gilberto.
All right, the second man.
Yes. You broke the story on Greg Papa. He's out as the Raiders announcer. Brent Musburger is in. You get a lot of comments from fans a lot of times. I guess, what kind of feedback have you received from that? He's been there 20 years.
It's been a very mixed, I guess, reaction to, Greg Papa. Like you mentioned, he was there for 20 years. He had the touchdown Raiders, catchphrases, very beloved there with the Raider Nation there. But Musburger also kind of has his own, I guess, he's iconic, legendary status, but he's older in age, and that kind of makes you wonder, what are the Raiders doing? They're not yet here in Las Vegas, but it's a 3-year deal. 2018 through 2020, so we'll be here 1 year, and then kind of makes him wonder after 3 years, he's going to be, 82, 83? Ooh. What's going to happen? But it's a splashy hire, but it's still a lot of, question marks to answer there.
So we're talking about age. What do you think about that, Michael?
He's such an icon, and Brent Musburger, his voice, but so is Greg Papa. So I understand for fans to have some anxiety or just be upset with the move from Papa, because he's just one of those guys that you associate with Raiders games, Raiders Sundays, that voice. But they hadn't, they felt compelled to make the move. There was reports that Papa was not totally on board with joining the Raiders in their move to Las Vegas. He's more Bay Area entrenched. So I'm sure there were all kinds of factors, but ultimately they secure somebody who is a staple. And yes, as you mentioned, the age, being 79 years old, maybe not the youthful voice that some would associate with the Raiders' future in Las Vegas, but still a Las Vegas voice.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't surprised. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised, or nobody should have been surprised at the Papa move, because we've since read and learned a lot about his relationship with Mark Davis, and they weren't always on the same wavelength. So the fact that they wanted to make a change before Vegas makes a little sense. I know Brent, obviously he's a Hall of Famer, terrific broadcaster. I was more surprised they made a decision on who the replacement would be now over Papa. But again, if you're gonna bounce him now, then you have to have someone call your games, and you don't want to keep changing people. But Brent will handle himself like a pro. He's in the Hall of Fame. He won't miss what down it is. He'll do a good job, and maybe the other thing we don't know, and Gilbert keeps breaking these stories, and good for him, he's doing a great job. Tom Flores has also been moved on, yes. So who will be the analyst? And again, are they going to groom someone to take over Brent, after he's here for a year in Vegas, and he kind of ushers them into Vegas, and then they've groomed a younger guy? We don't know that yet, but I would hope they would think in those terms.
That's actually a good question. Like, whom will be the analyst? Any names that you've heard, or anyone in particular you maybe would think, he'd be a good job. He'd be a good fit for that.
There's a lot of guys, alumni Raiders, that are always involved. Especially, Mark Davis does a good job of keeping these guys still involved. So I think it's a long list of names that guys are always still involved. I think you mentioned earlier Lincoln Kennedy's a guy who's always a part of the broadcast. So I think it's a long list. It's kind of hard to tell. But if they want to kind of maybe keep it Vegas related with Musburger, it could be somebody who's kind of really involved in the community here. A lot of Raiders do a lot of community events, and there's guys that show up all the time. So maybe somebody who shows their face around here in Las Vegas.
I gotcha. Now, the Raiders have had some pretty decent free agent signings in the offseason. Guys that are a little bit long in the tooth. I love using that term. Derek Johnson, Jordy Nelson, receivers. Michael, how well do you think they'll fit in with the Raiders? Is that a good way to go, maybe with as far as age? How much of an impact do you believe those players will have?
I think it's easy to dismiss or poo-poo some of the moves the Raiders have made in free agency, because long in the tooth, or however you want to characterize them, a lot of these guys are 30 and up. They're part of that club, and so often in the NFL, when a player turns 30, we or the NFL, media or otherwise, like to say, oh, that guy's washed up, the guy's done, who's going to be his replacement? Raiders are investing in those guys at this juncture of their careers. I'll tell you what, with age comes experience. The Raiders really needed somebody with experience in their wide receiver room. Although Michael Crabtree had been in the league for a while, he really wasn't that type of veteran who would be that positive influence consistently enough in terms of what the Raiders wanted for him in that room. I think Jordy Nelson will be very good for Amari Cooper and some of those younger wide receivers, just as Derek Johnson Navarro Bowman, he left as a free agent. He's still available, but he's not back. Having a veteran in Derek Johnson who can kind of quarterback Gunther's scheme on defense was huge for the Raiders.
Your first thoughts when you heard those signings?
Old guys can play, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I'm actually really excited to see Jordy Nelson. He comes off an injury. He no longer has who people consider the best quarterback in the NFL throwing to him. They had such a connection with each other with Aaron Rodgers. It'll be interesting to see how fast he and Derek Carr can get that relationship going. It may never be what he had with Rodgers, but that doesn't mean it also can't be productive. So I'm actually really interested in seeing him play because I do think he's still got a lot in him. Injuries he's had have been bad ones, but yeah, I mean, I think Jordy Nelson, like Mike said, Mike knows the team better than anyone. I think that to have a guy in the room on a daily basis who's a professional and people look up to and know that he has a ring and he's been in the biggest games, and that's important.
See, for me, I think it's the running backs. You got Marshawn Lynch is I think about to be 30 or over 30. Doug Martin came in. Usually in the NFL, you got these younger, really I guess athletic running backs like Kareem Hunt and Alvin Kamara. And the Raiders are built on running the ball and blocking. I don't know if you trust Marshawn Lynch and Doug Martin to kind of do that for you right now.
The muscle hamster.
He hates that nickname.
I know. Please don't call me the muscle hamster. I can call him that from here, but yes, I guess won't get in his face and call him the muscle hamster. He is an Oakland Bay Area guy. And lastly, though, John Gruden, Derek Carr. Is Derek Carr going to have a Tom Brady season?
Well, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of an unfair expectation, but I think Derek Carr needs to buy in, and I think he already probably has, and there's only one boss in the room. So he's either going to buy in and produce, or they're going to clash because he's not the one with the 10-year deal, and he's not the one that's been handed. There's very few coaches in that league beside Belichick with the kind of security John Gruden now has to run a program. So Derek Carr needs to buy in and listen and try to learn under how Gruden wants him to play and produce. He's obviously got a lot of skill and talent. He's obviously a very talented player, and we've seen him at his best that can win in this league. But this is on Derek Carr. That's the thing. It's not on the quarterback whisperer. He's gonna do what he wants. So Derek Carr's gonna have to be the one who listens and buys in. With
that being said, Derek Carr or John Gruden has already said that Derek Carr had injuries last year. He's kind of dismissed last season. Do you think they'll have a huge jump or a big spike in his productivity with John Gruden?
Last year was the first season Derek Carr took a step backward from a productivity standpoint. I think we're going to see him get back on track to some degree. I think he needs more help around him, and I would just include everybody in the building when it comes to that. You can look at the defense. There was a reason why the Raiders' offensive production was down across the board last season. They weren't getting enough turnovers. They went double-digit games to start the season without interception. That was an NFL record. Their field position was a nightmare relative to what it was the season earlier. So that's a factor. You look at coaching. Amari Cooper, will probably see him be more in the slot last year in 2017. Really his one big game was that Thursday night game, 210 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was in the slot more that game than he was at any other point in the season. So I think we're going to see Amari Cooper be moved around a little bit more. Jordy Nelson, how does that play out? The tight ends, I think it all comes together. And if he can stay healthy, I don't worry about Derek Carr and John Gruden working well together. But to me, it's about giving Derek Carr more help. I think John Gruden is a start to that.
And put him in a position to succeed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think the non-interceptions were good for our paper because it allowed for more column inches each week than perhaps an all-time record because it went so long. I think Michael and Alberto here, they got more column inches out of that than probably anything last season.
That's what we talked about it a lot.
Yes, we did.
Yes. Well, it went for so long.
And the big issue last year was Todd Downey and the deep ball. It seemed like that was always an issue.
Yeah, too.
And we haven't mentioned Martavis Bryant. There's still some question marks there, but he stretches the field. Like Michael mentioned, you could put Amari Cooper now in that slot to be more productive. And you got Jordy's presence there. So I think more weapons around for Derek Carr. We'll see if he can finally extend some plays this year, or maybe that back issue is healthy too. So we'll see if he has a couple steps forward this year.
You guys bring up a lot of good points. The fact that it might not just be John Gruden being a quarterback whisperer. It might be the fact that he's a good offensive mind and putting other guys in better positions, which thus helps Derek Carr succeed and be a better quarterback.
No doubt.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, that was quick and painless, was it?
Sure. Painless
is debatable, but quick, I believe it was.
There you go. Sports columnist Ed Graney, Gilbert Manzano, sports reporter at the Review Journal, and, of course, Raiders beat writer Michael Gehlken. I'm Bryan Salmond. This is our Vegas Nation offseason update. We'll see you next time.